The placement of Ketu in the sixth house of a natal chart is one of the most intriguing and spiritually significant positions in Vedic astrology. In the traditional texts, this is often considered one of the better placements for a malefic planet, as Ketu, the south node of the moon, tends to perform well in upachaya, growing, houses. However, because Ketu represents detachment, past life mastery, and the headless pursuit of liberation, its influence on the sixth house of debts, enemies, and disease is anything but straightforward. The karmic context of the sixth house. The sixth house is the battlefield of the zodiac. It governs our daily routine, our capacity for hard work, our health, and the obstacles we face, such as litigations or rivals. When Ketu occupies this space, it suggests that the soul has already spent many lifetimes dealing with these mundane struggles. You likely possess an innate, almost subconscious ability to navigate conflict or manage complex tasks, yet you may feel a profound sense of been there, done that regarding the daily grind. Victory over adversaries. One of the primary hallmarks of Ketu in the sixth house is the silent conqueror energy. Unlike Mars or Rahu, which might seek to crush an enemy with visible force, Ketu tends to make enemies simply fade away or lose interest. There is a strange, protective shield here. People who attempt to harm or undermine you often find their efforts backfiring or dissolving into nothingness. You don't necessarily have to fight to win. Your detachment from the conflict often becomes your greatest weapon. However, this can also lead to a lack of awareness regarding hidden enemies. Because Ketu has no eyes, you might not see a threat coming until it has already passed, relying more on intuition than observation. Health and the mystical body. Regarding health, Ketu in the sixth house is a double-edged sword. It often grants a strong constitution or the ability to recover from illnesses that would baffle others. However, when health issues do arise, they are frequently Ketu-ish in nature, meaning they are difficult to diagnose, involve the nervous system, or stem from mysterious, psychosomatic origins. There is often a strong connection between the gut and the mind for these individuals. Because the sixth house relates to service, you may find that traditional medicine doesn't always provide the answers you seek, leading you toward holistic, energetic, or spiritual healing modalities. The daily grind and service. In a professional sense, this placement creates a person who is highly capable but often feels like an outsider in the workplace. You are the person who can fix the problem no one else can see, yet you may have little interest in the office politics or the climb up the corporate ladder. You might find yourself drawn to careers involving service to the disenfranchised, such as social work, medicine, or spiritual counseling. There is a deep-seated desire to help others, but it comes from a place of spiritual duty rather than a need for recognition. Debts and disconnect. The sixth house also governs debts and litigations. Ketu here can lead to a certain nonchalance regarding financial obligations, which can be dangerous if not monitored. You might feel that material debts are less real than spiritual ones. Conversely, you may find that you are frequently called upon to settle the karmic debts of others, acting as a bridge or a healer for those in crisis. The spiritual synthesis. Ultimately, Ketu in the sixth house is about mastering the material world through detachment. You are learning that while the enemies, debts, and diseases of life are real, they do not define your essence. The challenge is to remain grounded in your daily responsibilities without becoming lost in them. By embracing the 12th house Rahu, which always opposes this placement, you are encouraged to balance your practical service with a rich, private spiritual life. When you stop viewing life as a series of problems to be solved and start seeing it as a series of experiences to be observed, the true power of Ketu is unlocked, granting you an unshakable inner peace amidst the chaos of the world. While Ketu acts as a point of vacuum and detachment, the zodiac sign it occupies determines the flavor of how you handle obstacles in service. Here is a brief look at Ketu in the sixth house across the signs. Fire signs: Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. In these signs, Ketu creates a spiritual warrior. You have an intuitive, almost impulsive ability to crush obstacles, but you likely find physical competition or ego-driven battles exhausting. In Aries, the victory is swift, In Leo, you may be indifferent to status or authority at work. In Sagittarius, you solve problems through higher wisdom and a philosophical let-it-be attitude. Earth signs: Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Earth signs make Ketu's influence more practical but also more frustrating. There is a deep mastery of routine, yet a constant feeling of being unfulfilled by material results. In Taurus, you may be detached from financial security or physical comforts. In Virgo, Ketu's strongest position for some, your analytical skills are surgical and psychic. In Capricorn, you perform your duties with a cold, robotic efficiency that can alienate coworkers. Air signs: Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Here, the struggles are mental and social. Enemies are often intellectual or related to communication. In Gemini, you may have a detached way of processing information or forgetting arguments. In Libra, you find the concept of formal contracts or balanced partnerships in the workplace tedious. In Aquarius, you are a natural at solving large-scale social problems while remaining personally aloof from the people involved. Water signs: Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. Ketu in water signs makes the sixth house deeply intuitive and emotional. In Cancer, your health is tied directly to your fluctuating moods, and you may mother your enemies into submission. In Scorpio, you have a supernatural ability to handle crises and deep-seated trauma. In Pisces, you may simply ignore problems until they dissolve, treating the battlefield of life as a dream or an illusion. A transit of Ketu through the sixth house is a significant astronomical event that typically lasts about 18 months. In Vedic astrology, while a natal placement describes your factory settings, a transit represents a temporary period of karmic auditing. When Ketu, the south node associated with dissolution and liberation, moves through the house of service and struggle, the focus shifts toward unplugging from the drama of the material world. The dissolution of conflict. The most notable effect of Ketu transiting the sixth house is a peculiar sense of invincibility born from indifference. You may find that long-standing disputes, workplace rivalries, or legal entanglements simply lose their steam. It is as if the fuel of ego that kept these conflicts alive has been removed. You are less likely to engage in power struggles because you no longer feel the need to prove your superiority. Paradoxically, this detachment often causes enemies to back down. When there is no resistance, there is nothing for them to strike against. Navigating the 2026 transit context. In the current 2026 astrological landscape, Ketu is transiting through Leo, Simha, for the majority of the year, before shifting into Cancer in December. If you are a Pisces rising, for whom Leo is the sixth house, this transit specifically targets your sense of authority and daily discipline. The Magha influence. As Ketu moves through the Magha nakshatra during mid-2026, there is a heavy emphasis on ancestral karma. You may find yourself resolving debts that aren't even yours, patterns of work or illness inherited from your lineage. The shift to Cancer. As Ketu moves toward the end of the year, the focus shifts from the royal struggle of Leo to the emotional undercurrents of Cancer, making health more about emotional boundaries and internal peace. Health: the search for the subtle. During this transit, physical health often becomes a mirror for spiritual health. You might experience vague symptoms, fatigue, digestive sensitivity, or phantom pains that conventional tests struggle to explain. This is Ketu's way of nudging you toward holistic or energetic healing. It is a period where less is more. Over-medicating or aggressive treatments may be less effective than subtle shifts in diet, meditation, or spending time in solitude. The workplace is a spiritual lab. Professionally, a sixth house Ketu transit can be challenging for those in rigid, corporate environments. You may feel a growing urge to quit the rat race or find your daily tasks increasingly meaningless. This is not necessarily a sign to walk away immediately, but rather an invitation to practice karma yoga, performing your duty without attachment to the results. It is a time for quiet efficiency. You might find yourself working in the background, handling the messy details that others overlook, and finding a strange, silent satisfaction in being the invisible hand that keeps things running. Financial and karmic rebalancing. Since the sixth house involves debt, this transit often brings a settling of accounts. You might suddenly find the means to pay off a long-standing loan, or conversely, you might realize that someone who owes you money is simply unable to pay, prompting you to forgive the debt to clear your own energetic slate. By the time Ketu completes its journey through this house, you will likely feel lighter, as if the heavy backpack of daily worries you've been carrying has finally been set down. Subscribe, like, and share.